All right, look lately on that, and specifically recently on learning more about control nodes, UI. I've built out kind of an inventory system for myself, or the beginnings of it. In my last stream, started messing around with drag and drop, and actually off stream, I spent like 15 minutes and got drag and drop working. So I thought I'd start out by going through, as I normally do, walking through what I've built so far. So we've got a main menu here. You can continue a game, start a new game, load a game. Got all your save files. You can load each of those, delete them. We continue the game here. We start out with a top-down view of a player. The triangle that you see, the red triangle, is actually a debug value, as is the blue circle here. So I have debug collision objects on, so I can see kind of what's going on. It makes sense because in the game, the only way to see enemies right now is if you turn on your flashlight. So you turn your flashlight on, you can see enemies. If you get too close, they'll follow you. You can shoot them. You have an inventory system, like an inventory menu, which I'm working to make better. You have kind of a dual inventory system that allows you to drag and drop stuff from the player to the zombie and vice versa. And so this is kind of what I was working on outside of the stream for like 15 minutes. I got drag and drop working. So it basically allows you to drag, not overwrite items. Like if you drag one over the other, you can cancel drags and it doesn't delete the item. So I can kind of walk through and code how that's working. And then from there we can move forward, and I think I want to clean up the inventory menu a little bit better, make it more like less of a scroll menu, more visible entirely on the screen. And then I also want to work on the viewport just a tiny bit. I think everything should be zoomed in a smidge, and the screen itself, the window, should be larger. So I just want to focus on that. And then from there, might go about maybe adding some new items or working on some other features unrelated to UI. We'll probably add some items actually, so that the UI and inventory is actually useful. But yeah, with that, let me walk through kind of the code I added. So in the last stream, we were messing around with these three functions: can drop data, get drag data. These are each related to dragging and dropping in some way. Can drop data says, can this item, like, is this item drag and droppable? In this case, if the item or data is an item and the item is not null, then yes, it is draggable. Drop data you implement when you want to say, can something be dropped in this location? So in this case, if data that's being dropped is an item and there is no item in the inventory slot, then we say yes. Otherwise, we say it's a failure. And then lastly, get drag data. This is what should be shown when you actually drag. So in this case, I've set it up so that, let me pull it up here. I've set it up so that when you click on like foo, for example, and you start dragging, a foo inventory item, appears, and then you can see that that's what you're dragging and not bar. And then when you click on bar, it does the same thing there. Hey, Exact Midnight. I'm using Godot. It's an open source game engine. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, Godot, it's an open source game engine. I'm using GDScript, which is kind of the built-in language within Godot. And as for what I'm building, I'm more learning game development right now, so I'm figuring out how I would implement different features, and going about and kind of documenting that process for myself. So recently I've been working on an inventory menu that allows you to just kind of drag and drop things. In this stream, I'm probably going to focus on making this a little more visible. I think the scroll menu isn't ideal, and then want to add some items and expand from there. And then also want to do some additions to the viewport to make it a little bit bigger and more zoomed in, so it's easier to see what's going on. But I was explaining that I did like 15 minutes of work off stream, implementing some drag and drop stuff. I introduced this concept of a drag and drop manager. So this handles when you start a drag, when a drag is successful, and then when a drag is failure. It basically sets the current node to the node that you're trying to drag. And if it's successful, then it calls this function on the node. So anything that uses drag and drop manager has to implement this handle drag success function, and then it cleans up, basically removes the node. If it's a failure, then it just cleans up. I imagine at some point there can be more functionality handled here, but this allows me to have a global way of handling drag and drop without needing to too closely tie different UI elements together and inventory elements together. I imagine this won't work as a global solution for every single drag and drop use case there might be, but this works fine for inventory for now. But yeah, so like I said, I was going to update the inventory to be, I think I'll probably have like squares, and then and just have it be more like horizontally focused rather than vertically focused, and that'll allow me to not have this scroll window here. So the nice thing about how I've built the inventory, let me just commit what I've got here. The nice thing about how I've built the inventory is that if I make changes in one place, it should update for any character, whether that be player character or NPC that implements an inventory. So I can just make changes once and it'll be reflected everywhere. Added drag and drop manager. Okay. All right, so let's open up the inventory here. As you can see, we have, it's very vertically oriented, and that's because this VBox container has a size of 600 by 1000. If we instead did something like 1000 by, I mean, 1000 by 1000 might not be terrible, actually. If we open this up, it should resize correctly, except the issue now is we have a VBox container rather than an HBox container. So everything is oriented vertically. Now there should be a container that handles a grid system. Grid container might be what we're looking for here. If I update this to a grid container, so we're gonna break some things for a second here. Excuse me. We'll break some stuff for a sec, but we'll get it fixed. So these need to be updated to grid container. And even then, I think things should work. They'll not look correct. Okay. That's fine. And I'm actually realizing we didn't want that to be a grid container. Let me back these changes out. Oops. So let's remake this a VBox container because this is the one that actually handles the outer stuff. So one sec. It was the inventory items, the items margin container here that we want to be a grid container, not a HBox or VBox. Yeah, so if we update this to grid container, item scene shouldn't be null. Why is item scene null now? Oh, because I didn't update the name here. Let's rename this back to VBox container. Okay. All right, so that looks a little more like we would expect, but now we'll do, for the margin container here, we'll say, let's give it 4 columns. So this is still gonna look weird because we're setting a minimum width for the inventory item buttons. And so we we'll need to fix that in a second. But what we want to do here is let's actually go into the inventory item buttons real quick. So the reason why we were doing a minimum width was for the drag and drop. So we can, let's update that to 0 for the moment. Okay, so that's closer to what we want. We can still do all of the drag and drop as expected. So really what we want is the width to expand to the size of the inventory and the height to expand to the size of the inventory as well. And that way every item inside the inventory is the same size. Now we need to figure out how exactly to do that. And this is where we start to get into the fun, like, properties of some of these UI containers in Godot. What is clip context? Enables weather rendering of canvas item-based challenge should be clipped to this controls rectangle. If true, parts of the child would be visibly. What happens if I turn that off? And why was that on? No. What if we don't have these expand? Makes no difference. Okay. Oh, maybe in the inventory item button, we need these to expand horizontally and vertically. I think that's what it is. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I needed to expand both on the inventory item button as well as the grid container itself. All right. So this looks a little bit more like I was hoping it would. So now we should update the drag and drop component to just be a little closer to what this looks like, just so it has some like margin on the outside and it's not just text. Cool. So this looks pretty decent. So now when we're implementing the drag and drop here in inventory item button and we're creating a new, where is that? When we're setting drag preview here, that's where we are able to create the scene that we want to show when we're dragging and dropping. So for inventory item button, we can probably add some more data here that says like, vertical, or I guess just like width and height, both ints. And we'll actually set these to just -1 for now, and we'll say if it equals less than -1, don't do anything with it. So if width is greater than, actually we can just set it to 0 because there's no point in saying width and height of 0. So if width is greater than 0, self dot what element do we want here? We're adding an action button child. Oh, it's really the action button that we want to be, hold on. passing along. So when we initialize the action button, okay, we've got the margin. This is where it starts to get kind of gross. For now, we'll just say width equals 0 and height equals 0. And at some point, we'll want to come back and make this a little cleaner. Relax. So I don't know how to set the width and height of the action button. So let's go into it real quick. And specifically, it's the does the button expand? It does fill. So I think we'll want to set it on this container. Oh, it's probably just size. So if width is greater than 0 and height is greater than 0, we'll say self.size or set size, actually, probably. Assume this takes a vector. Great. So we'll say vector2 of width. Oh, and height. And sorry, vector2. Okay, so we've got the width and height from inventory item button. Let's pass that into, oh, it does initialize? Okay, those are by default 0. So this is the unfortunate bit. So we pass in width and height. Vector is XY, right? I believe, yeah. Okay. Now, when we're initializing the inventory item button here in get drag data, we want to pass in, let's just start out with 100 by 100 and see how this looks. Let's get an item. Okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. And let's see. Maybe it's because custom minimum size needs to be updated. So let's figure out how to do that. Custom set custom. No, maybe I just do custom minimum size is vector2 of width and height. I think that did work. It looks a little taller than it was before, so let's update this to, although that didn't really look like 200 by 200, but, or I mean 100 by 100, but. Oh no, it did. Okay. Great. So that, you know, it's not the same size, but it's close enough. I think that's totally acceptable there. Awesome. One other thing I want to do is, well, first let's not set size. The other thing I want to do is not have empty text when there's a null element. So rather than default empty name, which is just empty. Let's just have an empty string. If we do that, though, we need to make sure that we're not checking against item name anywhere, because the nullish value of a string in Godot is just an empty string. So I think we're okay. Oh no, we do assert that button text is not null, but I think we can safely remove that because we don't mind if there's a button that has no. Yeah, so this looks better. Okay, that's what we expect. The other thing I just want to quickly do is set when you click on one of these, set the location of the inventory item button to center. So I think it's related to the anchor. It's this. What if I just do center to start with? Oops. Does that break a whole bunch of other stuff? Doesn't seem like it. It also doesn't fix that. So maybe it's not I guess we can revert that. It might be the button itself. No. I don't know what that would be on. So let's look it up. Godot for center scene when drag and drop. All right, might need to figure this out ourselves. Well, actually, okay, so it's instancing an inventory item button. So maybe, oh, it's this one. Okay, so what happens if I change this to center? Those all look fine. That looks okay. What happens when there's an item? That also looks okay. And it's not centered. I assume if I do like full rectangle, that's gonna be very weird. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, so that makes that huge. That's definitely not what we want to do there. I wonder if it's... maybe there's a configuration of the actual drag and drop itself. Like set drag preview at the mouse point, a good time to call this method. Control must not be in the scene tree, should not freely control, and you should not keep a reference to the control beyond the duration of the drag. That's fine. Oh, I guess I could set the size here instead of doing it when I'm initializing it. Actually, since it needs to be a child, size difference, then no, I can't do that. But I don't know. I guess you could argue that you don't want it to be in the center of the mouse anyway, because that would mean it would be covered partially by the mouse, excuse me, itself. So I guess it's fine as is. All right, so we got that working. Which is cool. What did I say I was going to do next? I mean, I guess I could start creating some items and like work on inventory. I mean, work on ammo. Oh, let's also make it so that when you've clicked on one, it highlights which one you've selected. So I assume in action button, there's specifically on a button. There's this toggle. Oh, button pressed. Action mode determines when the button is considered clicked. One of the action mode constants required just a press to consider the button clicked. Require a press and a subsequent release before considering the button clicked. Okay, mouse left. Oh, you can do all of them. Okay, that's good to know. Key pressed outside. If true, the button stays pressed when moving the cursor outside the button while pressing it. Button pressed. If true, the button stays pressed. Means the button is pressed down or toggled. Only works if toggle mode is true. If true, the button is in toggle mode. Okay, so unlike some other buttons here, although most of the buttons that okay, so we need a way to turn action buttons into toggle mode. So we'll say should be, this is starting to get gross. So because of that, actually, let's create a new class related to action buttons. Action button initializer. So this will extend node, class name, action button initializer. So we'll say init takes in all these things. Oh, actually, before I do that, we'll say so what I'm looking to do is basically have a way to standardize the initialization of an action button. And rather than having, you know, right now we're getting up to like 7 input parameters. I'm working overtime. Yeah. No, this is I've had the timer going for the last like, I don't know, 4 or 5 streams. So I start and stop it every time. But I've only been live for like half an hour. Okay, I want a way to, because we're starting to get into a lot of input parameters for an action button. And Godot script doesn't have, or GD script doesn't have a way to like type an object. And so I kind of want to get the ability to do that. So what I'm thinking is having a function that returns the object, a way that returns like the object itself with all the keys available, and then anything that's implementing or using that object can access that. So actually, now that I think about it, we don't even need an init function here. Thank God. Yeah. No, I can usually only stream for like 2 hours and then I'm tired and I don't feel like I can talk much anymore after that. So, I'll be on for a bit longer. Your fish-like brain wouldn't be able to handle scripting, or coding. I think anyone can code. I think there is reason for everyone to know a little bit about how to code, because it can help with even just daily tasks. Like I built myself a way to take CSVs, which are comma separated value files, for like my finances, and basically turn it into I wrote a script that turns it into like a way I can kind of see all of my data better. And granted, there are lots of services that already do that, but I like doing things myself. But I think there's a lot of value in at least understanding a little bit about coding. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a new language for the first time, Alp, it's definitely confusing, especially when it comes to game development. Like, it's a whole other, like, there's so many things that you need to consider in game development that you don't have to in a lot of other coding. So this is definitely slightly more complicated than most things I would work on. If you want to see better, you buy a bigger screen. You're learning Godot too, Alp? Yeah, it's fun. I started dabbling in Godot like 4 years ago. And I'd say every year or so I spend like a couple weeks, and then I kind of, get distracted and do other things. But this year I've probably spent like, a month working on Godot stuff and learning more, and it's really starting to click. It's really hard at first, but once you get past that initial barrier and roadblock, it starts to make more sense. Okay, so I want I just want a standardized way to initialize an action button that isn't a initialize function with like 8 different parameters. So I think I'll create an object called attributes. Your mindset is see rock, take rock, smash food, eat food. Yeah, that's funny. Can you not pass a resource to a function? What do you mean by pass a resource? So what I'm trying to the one thing I don't like about GD script is that you can't have typing on objects. So here, let me show you. This initialize function, I've started adding way too many parameters here. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. So I could, like the simple way to do this, or not the simple way, but the like basic way to do this would to be say like, or it would be to say, pass in a single attributes parameter, which is a dictionary, and then access like the button text using attributes dot get BT or button text or whatever. But there's no way to guarantee that attributes has that that key and value, or like that it's actually a string. And so I want a way to do that. And I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's no way to do that in GDScript without like manually doing it. So for some of these scenes that I have, as I'm getting to like be able to customize it more in different ways, I just want to have like a standardized way to pass in like these attributes without passing in, 10 or 20 different parameters depending on the use case. If you know a better way though, please let me know. So I'm thinking of having just predefined key names here. So like for button text, say button text key, and say like button text, and then do the same for like margin key. And I think I'll update the margin to be an array rather than, a set of discrete values. And then we'll say like size key, size. And so instead of passing in specifically a width and a height, we'll say a vector 2. And so we'll have a function that gets attributes, which returns a dictionary, which is attributes. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's have a specific. We'll make it so that you have to call a specific function to get each of the different attributes. So we'll say like set button text. Oh, I guess we don't even need a. What am I doing? We don't. Godot allows you to just say like var button text. Maybe this is what you were talking about. Say it's a string. Margin is an array of integers. And we'll actually initialize that all to 0, 0, 0, 0. And then button size is a vector 2. Can you set a vector 2 to null? It does look like you can. No, you can't. Okay. So what is I assume the empty value of this is just 0, 0, would be my guess. Yeah, I need to wrap my head around the fact that all of the, like a class, just a default node in Godot is basically an object itself. So if I say like get button text, or actually set button. I might actually just, I'm realizing as I'm doing this, I don't need to right now. If I just make margin and an array, of integers. And then button size is a vector 2. Okay, so then we say if button margin, length of button margin equals 4, oh, I know. Why am I shouldn't be having this in the initialize. Brain is not functioning properly here, but basically I don't need to initialize with anything other than like the button text right now. These can all be optional functions that you call if you actually want to specify it. So we'll say set button margin, and here you pass in an array of integers. It doesn't need to be a default necessarily, but it's fine. So we have set button margin. If length of button margin is 4, do that. Otherwise, we want to actually, let's do, we'll say assert length of button margin equals 4. Otherwise, button margin array must be size 4. Top, bottom, left, right. Okay. Now with that asserted, what is, holy cow. We can say 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll have another function that says set button size. And we'll pass in a vector 2. That returns void. We'll set this to also return void. So then we can just set that to button size. Okay. All right, now I need to go everywhere. That action button is being called here and update this to be self.action button dot set button size and we'll pass in a vector2 with width and height. Actually, this should just be button size is vector 2, and we'll default that to what is happening. Vector 2. Hey Philippos, how's it going? Okay, so we've updated it there. I think that should be fine. We're definitely gonna break something somewhere. So if the length of all of that is 4, set button size, vector 2. What am I making? So over the last couple weeks, I've been streaming kind of my game development journey, just building out basically a playground for testing game features for a game that I might want to build in the future. I'm going through and making just some quick changes real quick that are basically, it's broken the game. So in like 2 minutes, I'll be able to give you a demo of what's going on. But recently, I've just been learning more about control nodes in Godot, UI, how to use it. I built out an inventory system that allows drag and drop. And up next, I'm going to be adding some items to the game, or to the playground, just to like, you know, show that I can do that and figure out kind of the best ways to do some of that kind of stuff. Would you recommend? Yeah. Would you recommend a bigger monitor screen? Just getting into coding. Currently have a 27-inch screen from a couple of years ago. I work on a, what is the size of my screen? I think mine might be 32 inches. I don't think you necessarily need a bigger screen than 27 inches. It totally depends on how far away from the monitor you are. I'm like, an arm's length away from my monitor, and it's a pretty decent size. If I were a little closer, a 27-inch would be totally fine, but I don't think you necessarily need to go out and buy like a new monitor to get into coding. I used to be really big into having, 2 or 3 monitors and a widescreen and all of that stuff. And recently I've just been finding that like having a single screen, granted I'm using an iPad as a second screen right now, but it's relatively small and it's just for like streaming, like OBS is running on it. I don't think you need to have a huge monitor or a bunch of monitors. It's not necessary. It's fun, but it isn't needed. Any tips for someone like me starting on his journey to make games? I think as you're going through and playing games, I mean, I'm no game development expert by any means. I'm just, I'm still on the early side of my game development journey as well, but I've been playing games my whole life, and this piece of advice applies to any creative medium. As you're going through and playing games, look at how they do things and start to think about what they did to implement that and how these different systems within games interact with each other. Think about music design and sound design and the visuals and how they've created the storytelling, how they've created a world, some of the game mechanics, and like you don't need to necessarily write it down, but just like start to notice some of the stuff that you wouldn't necessarily notice if you were just like playing a game for fun, if that makes sense. And then the other piece for like getting started with any project, whether it's game development, whether it's anything else in software engineering or really anything in life, is just planning is just vitally important to getting things done. Not even in a timely manner, just like getting things done, knowing what you're going to build, what you want to build. And as you're starting out on game development, like pick something really small to work on and just try to finish it. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be big. Just try to do something that you can finish in a bite-sized chunk of time and then go from there. Keeping things small means that you'll less easily get distracted. You'll less easily get demotivated. Like at that point you can show that you've built something and like you can build up some of your confidence, and it teaches you certain things and you don't need to try to learn everything about game development all at once. So yeah, that was a lot of different pieces of advice, but start small. Do as much planning as you can, and just as you're playing games, go through and start to look at some of the things that other people have done and like see the good things, see the bad things, try to understand how they interact with each other and work together. Okay, let's go back to updating these initialize functions. Did that one already. So now in inventory UI, we'll say action button dot set margin 10, 10, 10, 10. Philippus, you're welcome. No problem. All of the advice I just gave is advice. It's easier said than done, and it is hard to follow at times. Like I've started building games before, and like you try to pare down what you're doing, not have any scope creep, which basically means trying not to have more work to do than you need to get something done. But it's so easy to like get distracted by things, see something flashy and want to work on it. It really takes a lot of discipline to just focus on like the bare minimum and cut down on scope. It's a lot easier said than done. But that's why I'm kind of working on like a playground right now where I can just like test out some of the features that I might want to build. Because then if I build something, build a game that's like build a game, but like build some features that have no relation to each other, I'm not like setting myself back when it comes to making a game later. It's just giving me the opportunity to learn before I like build something. I think I updated that, so gotta update this action button dot set margin 10, 10, 10. Oops. Wow. What is going on? And then lastly, I think there's one more, maybe two. So we set the top and bottom margin. So menu items. Oh, wait. Hold on. Menu item scene? Yeah, okay. So menu item scene dot set button margin. Got M top, M bottom, 2020. And for the final one, action button scene dot set margin 10, 10, 10, 10. Cool. So assuming I haven't completely broken things, which is entirely a possibility. Let's see if this works. Nope. I entirely broke things. So main menu, set button margin does not have the same. Invalid type and function set button margin. Base margin container. Wait, is this a protected function? No. Invalid type and function set button margin. The array of argument 1 does not have the same element type as the expected typed array. Oh, did I? What is M top and are these strings or? No, that's right. 48. These should be integers. Am I targeting any specific platform? No, not really. Right now it's just keyboard mouse. At some point I could add controller, but that's probably one of those things where it's like, okay, I want to see how to build something using a controller or like for controller and then adding that to the game. So right now, no, not targeting anything, any specific platform, but Godot allows you to export to pretty much any platform at this point, from, you know, PC to mobile to console. So you can really do anything. Just depends on how you build it and what you're aiming for. Invalid type and function set button margin. The array of argument 1 array does not have the same element type as the expected typed array. What is this not an integer? Because set button margin is an array of integers. So, my mouse is freaking out. Okay, what if I update? Hold on, let me plug my mouse in. And of course I plug it in and it stops working, which is weird. There we go. Okay, so in main menu, if I were to just test these all as 20 for now. No, that doesn't work either. Okay, so it sounds like this is a more pervasive issue. And I might be finding that the typing of array int is not correct. What is this? Wait a sec. What is the typing here? Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. This is Godot 4? I've never seen. Oh no, wait, no, this typing is correct. What's the difference between what I'm doing and what? Maybe it's because I'm setting a default? Guess I don't need to set a default. Hmm. What am I doing wrong here? Yeah, I might not need to. If I... You're good. Yeah, it's possible I don't need to specify the array there. Let me look at Godot array typing in function parameter. Typed array function arguments don't accept typed arrays of subclass. It's more of a limitation. Okay, yeah, it's possible that I don't. So if that's the case, then I want to assert that, and then also for element in BM. Is element protected? No. It assert that element is int. Is that a valid way of doing that? Button margin array elements must be integers. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay, that seems to work. I messed up the margin here, but that's okay. The margin everywhere seems to be messed up, but Philippos, I think you asked what I am making. Yeah, what am I making? So it's just a playground, like I said, but I've added some features. So recently added a main menu with save files, so you can save and load and create a new game, continue the game. It's a top-down kind of, wherever you aim with your mouse is where the character looks. There's some debug. I have debug collision values turned on right now. So this red triangle is actually the debug collision value for the flashlight. So if you hit F, your flashlight turns on. These blue items here are zombies. So the only way you can see them without the debug values being on is if you shine your flashlight over them. And then you can shoot them and they die. And then you can open up like a dual menu here. Oops, that broke. So I need to fix that. But basically I added like drag and drop menu items. So you can move them around and drag them from zombie inventory to player inventory and whatnot. I built a save system, a chunking system, so as you move around, zombies load in and out and get saved into each of the chunks as they are unloaded. I think that's mostly it for now. Yeah. So what is this? Get drag data, or sorry, in inventory UI. Oh, right. I didn't update. Or no, that's inventory end button. I did not update this. So this should be a vector 2. Right. Yes, it's a vector 2. And then let's say if button size dot x is greater than 0 and or button size dot y is greater than 0. And I think that should work. So we can open up the inventory, open up the dual inventory, drag and drop. Okay, cool. So this is working all the same. Now we need to fix the margin issues that we're seeing. So, why is that happening now? Okay, so even in, so main menu I think is correct. Hold on. I think that actually looks right. The load menu doesn't, however. I think there's more margin than there was before. No, maybe not actually. But I know for sure this is not correct. The action buttons on inventory are not loading correctly. So let's see. Was there margin here before? Hold on. Oh, that's all new. So there used to be no margin. And I'm not setting margin, but it does seem like it's... Oh, because button margin by default is not... okay, so self... I guess there's a default button margin. Hold on. In action button here, do I have a default margin? Oh, I do. Ew. I didn't realize that. Okay, so now it looks like it's supposed to. That's strange. Not sure when I did that, but oh, that doesn't look right. Hold on. If I restart, is that fixed? Okay, I restart and that's fixed. Okay. I'm not sure. I must have done that a long time ago. Okay, now this works as expected. And we've got the player inventory, the dual inventory. And we should be good there. So let's go ahead and commit all this. I think most of the changes are related to move, action button, initialization, to discrete functions. Okay, and from here, let's work on the viewport changes that I wanted to make. So I want the window to be bigger by default, just so that it's a little easier to see. And then I also want the player to be zoomed in a little more. So if I go into the project settings, I go into project settings and then definitely don't need max FPS to be 300. 60 is probably fine for now. And then window. Let's see, center primary screen is fine. Resizable borderless, always on top. if I just make the viewport width and height bigger. I mean, really all I want is 16 by 9. Aspect keep mode. Oh, stretch. Oh, what is this? What happens if I do that? Just out of curiosity. Wait a second. Does this do exactly what I wanted it to do? Because I don't think that was happening before. Oh yeah, now it's zoomed in more. It's just bigger. So hold on. If I uncheck that again. Now I think if I like change, yeah, oh yeah, it's always the same size, and that's cool. Okay, I figured something else out that I was wanting to. Don't know what the difference between these two is. Okay, disabled, no stretching happens. One unit in the scene corresponds to 1 pixel on the screen in this mode. Has no effect. Recommended for non-game applications. Canvas items, oops. Canvas items, the base size specified in width and height in the project settings is stretched to cover the whole screen. This means that everything is rendered directly at the target resolution. 3D is unaffected. While in 2D, there's no longer a 1-to-1 correspondence between sprite pixels and screen pixels, which may result in scaling artifacts. Recommended for most games that don't use a pixel art aesthetic, though it's possible to use the stretch mode for pixel art games too, especially in 3D. Viewport. The size of the root viewport is set precisely to the base size specified in the project settings. The scene is rendered to this viewport first. Finally, this viewport is scaled to fit the screen. Use a pixel. Okay, so I think I actually want canvas items. Even though I'm kind of doing some pixel art stuff, it's not really pixel art. So let's try this again. Okay, so awesome. So that means I can go back to project settings. And I would like, okay, if I make that small again, just for a second. Oh. Hold on. So if I undo this, does that still happen or does it shrink? No, it does, because there's a minimum size, but this allows you to actually grow. So let me go. My main scene here is just called chunk testing. Need to look at the viewport here. Guess that's on the player. Oh yeah, camera 2D. Maybe there's some settings here. Process callback. Maybe not. Okay, what if I start this up again? If I say continue. Okay, so that's not doing what I wanted to do because this is not set to canvas items. What happens if I start it again with that on and open this up? Oh, weird. Why is... hold on. Maybe I don't understand what this is. Sets the game's main viewport width. On desktop platforms, this is also the initial window width. Stretch mode settings. Also use this as a reference when using the canvas items or viewport stretch modes. Huh. So if I say full screen, that's definitely not right. So this viewport width does a lot more than I was expecting it did. I don't really like that. I would love for it to be more controlled by like how much of the map you can see rather than it being like a global thing. But maybe I shouldn't worry about it too much right now. And let's set this back to what it was. So what happens if I do like 1920 by 1080? It's still probably zoomed in a little more than I would like it to be. Oh God, that looks horrible. Thanks, Philpos. Appreciate you hopping on. It's always fun when people come and participate. Have a good day. Okay, so for whatever reason that's weird. I have a 4K monitor, so maybe this is acting strangely, but what is, I can't remember what for. It's like 38 4K resolution. It's 3840 by 2160. So 3840 2160. Okay, so this seemed reasonable. I think if you tried playing this on not a 4K screen, this would look pretty weird, but we are not going to worry about it too much right now. But I do like having it be full screen here. Is OBS, is the stream like looking choppy here, or is that just my other monitor? Can't tell. I think it might just be my other monitor. Okay, we got that set up. Now let's do the next thing, which was adding more items, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So let's start to figure out how we want to do that. Okay, let's open up the generic inventory. Also, actually, while I'm here, what happens if I set that to 20? How does that change the inventory? Oh, it actually does make everything a little bit smaller, which is kind of nice. So it's pretty easy to change like inventory size without sacrificing too much right now, which is okay. I'm actually disliking it being full screen. So I do want it windowed. Oops. Why is it so small though? Whoops. Maybe I want it like maximized. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. So it doesn't like pull up a whole new screen, but it's still bigger. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, we're good there. So let's start thinking about some items here and how they should interact with the player. First of all, it would probably be helpful to be able to pick up more ammo from a zombie, because right now, once you run out of ammo, there's no way to do that. So it comes down to whether I want ammo to be a separate construct from an inventory, like it's you can store as much of it as you want, or if we want it to be part of the inventory itself. If it's part of the inventory itself, then we need to add stacking so that multiple types of the same inventory item can be in the same position. Which would change how we think about items, which is probably fine. So for the moment, let's just say max stack. We'll just call it 64 for now. And items themselves should be, let's see. So we'll have to change the data structure here because one item just gets set to the item itself. So we'll want to think more about the idea of a stackable item. And right now items are here. So let me quickly move this. This is probably going to break a bunch of stuff. Although maybe not, because it's, I don't know if it's being imported anywhere. Let's go ahead and try. Yeah, I don't think I'm using it anywhere other than the exported class name, so that's fine. So within an item, it's very basic. It's got an ID and a name. There's no action an item can take, no way to use an item. So now we start to get into how we want some of our item structures to be. Like, it's probably not enough to just have a single item type and then everything spawns off of that. Like, we'll need to have like an ammo type and maybe a consumable type. If we want to add armor at any point, you know, wearable. But before we even get to that, let's add the ability to stack an item. So rather than it storing an item, it needs to store what the item is and then how many of that item are there. So we can say, create a new script, stackable inventory item. So we'll say, oops, our item is an item. We'll have an amount is an integer. We'll set it to 0. And then got the item in the amount. So when you initialize this, you'll initialize it with an item and an amount. So self.item equals I. Assert that I is item. Assert that I does not equal null. Item must be null. I mean, item must be valid and not null. And then we also want to assert that A is greater than 0. Can't initialize stackable inventory item with 0 less than 0 amount. So self.amount equals A. So we'll have a function to get the item. Self.item, we'll have a function to get amount, which is just an integer, return self.amount. And then we'll have a way to, I don't think we need a way to update the item, because if we're updating the item in that inventory slot, we really just want to replace the entire stackable inventory item, but we do want a way to add or remove the amounts. So we'll say add amount. We'll say A is an integer. So this can be both positive or negative. We'll return void. We want to assert that self.amount plus A is greater than or equal to is greater than 0, because if it, I think we'll earlier on want to check if the amount would go to 0, we actually want to just remove that stackable inventory item. So can't update amount to, we'll just say amount must be greater than 0, otherwise we should remove the stackable inventory item from the inventory. Great. And then self.amount plus equals A. Great. So I think that's all we need for now. So in inventory, we will start working with we want to start working with stackable inventory items rather than just items. Okay, so that means we have to change everything here. So stackable inventory item instead of item. Stackable inventory item. Which actually, I don't think this change should be too bad here. Come to think of it, it does change File not found. Okay, inventory. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Remove item should actually be stackable inventory item. Same here. Okay, so that's everywhere that an item existed there. Now in inventory UI, I think. So anytime we're doing self.inventory and printing out, yeah, here we go. So this is no longer an item. This is a stackable inventory item. So we'll get to this momentarily. So update item. Update item needs to be stackable inventory item. This also becomes stackable inventory item. This also becomes stackable inventory item. So inventory item button. So it's the item. I.get item name. Okay, so self.item, this function doesn't exist. But I is not an item anymore. So why does it think that you can do that? Hold on. So update item. No, that's stackable inventory item. What is inventory item not a stackable inventory item? Invalid argument for update item. Argument 1 should be item, but is stackable inventory item. I mean, that's... Oh, I just needed to hit save. Okay, weird. Okay, we're still gonna have issues here because when I'm doing update inventory from drag and drop, that's connected to emit item modified within the inventory item button scene. So emit item modified. So this needs to be a stackable inventory item. And this gets emitted here where data is now a stackable inventory item. All of that is stackable inventory item. And okay, I don't think we're quite there yet. I'm missing something. Okay, so this is gonna definitely fail. That's not how you get the item name from a stackable inventory item. So get item stackable. Why is it letting me do this? Okay, I actually think I need to quit VS Code because the why does it think there's something in item.gd? Maybe if I boot this up again, it'll actually fix that. Where was I? Oops. Wait a sec. I lost where I was. Okay, this should not be valid. This doesn't exist anymore, so why is it coming up? Okay, let me quit out of Godot real quick. And quit out of VS Code. Okay, open up Godot. This is called Survival Game. Now we can boot up VS Code. And hopefully we see some errors here. Returns the item's name. But I is a stackable inventory item. And a stackable inventory item has an item, but it doesn't have... This isn't a protected function, is it? So I'm not understanding what's going on here, but so we actually want to do i.get item name. So that gets the item, and then that can get the name from it. Are we doing that anywhere else? Yes. Oops. Get item. Get item name. Let's actually do self.item.get item name. And okay, let's just give this a try and see where the failures occur. Okay, so get one very quickly in add item to next empty slot. Right, okay, so in the generic inventory, add item to next empty slot, we're expecting a stackable inventory item. So wherever this gets called, which it gets called in zombie, we don't want to be adding an item. We want to be adding a stackable item. So stackable item equals stackable inventory item dot new. Actually, we want this to be the init function. Dot new, and then we'll pass in item 1 and amount 1. We'll say stackable item 2. It's item 2 and amount 1. This will be stackable item. I don't know why this wasn't yelling before. It's like it's expecting a stackable inventory item, but it's letting me just pass in, oh, because there's no typing on this? Is that why? Like if I say this is an item, ew. I don't love that about GDScript. Am I blurred? Oh my god, why am I blurred? I think camera just got out of focus for some reason. Hold on. Weird, I don't know when that happened. 1 sec, let me try to fix that. There, is that better? I think that should be fixed now. I have no idea why I was blurred. Camera's having an issue apparently. Okay, why? Oh, stackable item. Okay. So that should fix that. Now I do expect us to still have other issues. But we'll go ahead and try anyway. So opening up the normal inventory is fine. And yeah, we're gonna have an issue when we trying to assign value of type stackable inventory item to a variable of type item. Ah, okay. So in the generic inventory, I think, line 57, no, what is this? Inventory UI. So in inventory UI, we're still using the old item. So this should be, oh, that's probably why it wasn't yelling about the types. Yeah. Camera should be good now. That was weird. Okay, are we using item anywhere else? I don't think so. So let's give this a try again. We will want to figure out a way to display the... Oops, okay. Invalid get index item name. Okay, so when we are setting the drag item, where is that? That's an inventory item button. So we're getting the item is a stackable inventory item, and we're trying to get the name, whoops, of I incorrectly somewhere. Yes, so an inventory item selected on line 70. Wait. Oh no, this is happening in inventory UI, line 74. Ah. Oh, I don't love this. Okay, so we don't really actually care about printing that out, so that's okay. So it's just ignored for now, but some of my naming conventions here are getting dubious. Okay, so this all works as expected. So now what we want to try doing is adding a way to display what when there are multiple items of the same, like when amount is greater than 1. So in order to do that, the inventory item button and the button text. So let's see, when we're creating this action button and setting the action button's name, what we really want to be doing is doing something like so let's say var item equals self dot hold on, let's update the naming convention for this to be stackable item. So this needs to be updated everywhere, which will just take me a sec. Dot stackable item. It's annoying that it's not catching these for me, but maybe it's because there's already an error there. Stackable item. Oops. Self.item. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's a little bit faster. Oops. Okay. So you're still yelling about this. Oh wait, and let's save our oh no, this is fine. I dot get amount. We'll say it's string. So this will look weird for a second. Okay, non-existent function get amount in base nil. Ah, so item isn't guaranteed. So we need to do the same here. So let's actually have a function called get button text, where we return a string and say why are you yelling? Oh, because we need to do self.stackable item.get item.get item name. And then var. Oh, actually, if self.stackable item equals null, just return empty string. Otherwise, we can say this for now. Self.stackable item.get amount. So get self.get button text here. Self.get button text. And then are we, get rid of view. Are we calling update text anywhere? Because action button has, update button text. We are. Update item. Update button text. So really, we just want to do self.get button text again. And we're not using you for anything, so that should be valid, hopefully. Let's close that. Open this back up, continue, open our inventory. Our inventory works. Dual inventory works. Okay, so we got this weird foo x1, bar x1 kind of thing going here, but that's okay. Let's actually just add a space for the moment. Just to say there's a single foo and bar item. That looks a little better. Now, if we were to update how many we have when we're creating a zombie. So we'll say we have 20 and 43. And then there was on inventory, I had some assertions for, or not inventory, on stackable inventory item. I had an assertion, so it can't be less than 0, and also we do want to have a max limit here. Not, wait, am I using max stacking right here? No. So we can have max stack here. Assert that A is less than or equal to max stack. Can't initialize amount. Stackable inventory item amount greater than max stack. oops, greater than max stack, and then I guess I can do plus string of max stack plus just close parentheses. Great. And then when we're adding the amount, we also want to say assert that that is less than or equal to max, oh my god, max stack. Amount must be, oops, less than max stack plus string of max stack plus that. Otherwise we should add it to a new inventory slot. So let's add a to do here. This shouldn't theoretically error. We should handle this case elsewhere. But for now, we'll just throw an error. So great. So we're not even using that function yet, so we're not going to be able to see anything happen. If we open this up, okay, we'll see x20 and x43. And then we'll need to add a way to like add things together here. But for now, that's how it's going to be. And I've been streaming for almost 2 hours now. And I have some stuff to do relatively soon, so I am going to hop off. We made some good progress here. Made the inventory look a little bit better, added a stackable inventory item so that we can start figuring out how to, use items from our inventory. And in the next one, we'll start adding the ability to like drag and drop and add items and then use certain items and create some new ones. So yeah, thanks everyone who's hopped on so far. This was a good session. It was fun. Got some good things done. And I will catch you all in the next one.